power system has been in place for over 150 years, close to 150 years. We started off with, Edison building his power plant, coal-fired steam dynamo to power light bulbs in New York. Right? That was really the birth of the electricity system. There was no defined buckets for consumers. There was no defined buckets for generators. There was no defined buckets for electric utilities, right? Those buckets actually only came into being maybe 50, 60 years later. So one of the things that what's happening now is that we have buckets of generators, utilities, consumers, but those labels may not be valid anymore. So we now have things like prosumers, utilities that are also generating electricity. So buckets are changing. Now, when these changes are happening, and these buckets are kind of melting into each other, we have a lot of friction. We have a lot of overlap. People are trying to figure out how are the different buckets going to work with each other. How will somebody who is actually a homeowner, a consumer, now putting up solar panels, becoming a prosumer, really interface with the distributor and the utilities? And how does that little nugget fit into the whole complexity that is our electricity system, right? So as these buckets are melding into each other, they're causing friction, uncertainties, challenges. And so the whole purpose of ADAPTR is really to help these labels that we take that are evolving to be more streamlined with one another, so that we don't have friction, so that as we go from the labels of the past, the labels of the future can be achieved in a more smooth manner. So ADAPTR really is about helping all the key stakeholders, the utilities, the generators, and the consumers to have electrification, to be able to access energy in the future that they need in a more streamlined way.
It's been interesting over the past couple of years and speaking to different guests. Some of them are talking about brand new technology that takes so much time to build trust. And sometimes they'll use renewable energy as a proven technology, of a technology that has been around a long time. That said, I know that you've been a big proponent of still trying to find innovation in this space, and ADAPTR certainly seems to be at the forefront of that. So can you speak to maybe what that innovation looks like? We can speak specifically within the wind energy sector, or it can be renewables in general.
Wind energy is a proven technology. Solar energy is a proven technology. We now have validated, made it really the most efficient way we can generate electricity on the planet is with solar and wind. Now, the challenge really now is how do you, and this going back to the same concept of the buckets are melding into each other, right? So we now have the most efficient way we can extract electricity from renewable resources like the sun and the wind. How do we reliably integrate that into the power system? How do we make sure it is available when people need it? How do we make sure the systems of the past can accommodate these types of generation of the present and in the future, right? So the innovation that really is coming up right now is in the integration aspect of these type of solutions, okay? And so, from going one level into the detail, the innovation is really in the power system right now. It's how you deliver energy. We have figured out how to transition energy from a generation standpoint. The main thing right now is how do we do energy delivery transition? How do you convey the electrons from when it's produced to when it is consumed? And that is where ADAPTR specific technology is. That's what our focus is from a technology front. And so there's a lot to be done there, right? So one of the umbrellas that you can throw on there is smart grid. Smart grid is a bucket where different types of technologies are helping to adapt the power system to the different types of generators and consumers that are coming up. So that is one example. Specifically with ADAPTR, the thought process is really pretty simple. Is we have been in the past really replacing the grid to connect renewables. So through grid upgrades, line upgrades to connect renewables. I think I might have used this analogy in our first round. It's like you go to Europe, you have your 2-pin plug, and you have those flat pin outlets in the UK. It's like changing out the outlet to plug in your 2-pin plug. That's stupid. And so we try to envision, why can't we have something for the grid? Why can't we have a grid adapter? And that is really the technology that we've been working on over the past couple of years and longer, to bring it to that stage where we can now incorporate different types of renewables and distributed energy resources without having to completely replace and discard grid assets that have remaining life.
Would you say that continues to be the biggest gap for, if you will, for renewables in Canada? Is it that integration piece, or do you see other areas where across the country we really have additional steps to take in order to get to that next level with renewable energy?
One of the other things that I've seen in our system, in our sector, because of the complexity of the power system, because of the competing nature of the entities within our power system, because of the competing messaging driven by policies and politics, we are now at, and this is one of the main reasons why we are doing what we're doing at ADAPTR, is that we are now faced with trying to solve problems in silos. Now, if you try to solve problems in silos, you will continue to have frictions across the board. So in terms of whether this type of technology is it, no, there needs to be so many other tools in the toolbox that should be geared towards not just problem solving in silos. Like, there shouldn't be one widget that solves one problem and that is it, right? You have to keep in mind that solution may have a knock-on effect with so many other in so many other areas. So you might solve that thing, but you might create a whole bunch of problems in other areas. The idea here is, what kind of technologies should we be focused on that will allow for holistic problem solving? Grid adapter is one flavor of that holistic problem solving, but it's also solving for other challenges that other generators or other consumers may be facing. So I think that is the main differentiator from our perspective, is we have to think holistically. It's no longer possible to solve in silos, and we will get lost within the complexity of our power system.
But there's also, I don't think most people realize how interconnected it is from a stakeholder perspective too. When you're trying to bring new renewable projects into play, you're not just dealing with one stakeholder, let's say a utility company or the grid provider. You're really thinking all of these different players. Can you talk a little bit more about this for people who are not deep in the industry, of maybe the importance of those different stakeholder and community engagement pieces when you're trying to achieve progress in the sector?
And I think this is where the competing messages is taking root in today's world. I don't think it is enough to simply talk about the sustainable aspect of renewables. It may also be the wrong focus for renewables going forward. At the end of the day, what is the common theme that everybody can agree to? And I believe that common theme is, we are at the end of the day a provider of energy and electricity. So we must cater to the needs of the energy consumers. Edison built his grid and his coal-fired generator to supply electricity. He didn't build a coal-fired generator for the purposes of a coal-fired generator. He wanted to solve the problem for the consumer, right? So our goal should be, how can we solve the electricity needs for the consumer? And can we do it in a fashion that is resilient, reliable, cost-effective, and if it's green, perfect. So I think that is very important to have that common message. When you have that common message, then it is easier to bring the different stakeholders to a common understanding. And I think that is the most thing, that is one of the things that, from my perspective, is what we should pursue, is that connect on a common message and then go from there.